Welcome back to the Playdate. I am your host, Susan Petersen.
And I'm your host, Faamausili.
Hello. Okay, we are going to talk through pregnancy, delivery, and some affirmations in there today.
Yeah.
Okay, so you said in the last episode that you had a midwife.
Yes.
How did you pick your midwife?
So, yeah, that was kind of challenging in the beginning because we were kind of newer to Utah,
Okay.
where we were living, and I didn't know anyone, like any resources. So I just called around, honestly, to some different offices and just asked, like, do you guys have midwives? And just asked them different questions. We ended up going with Revere Health. They were just the closest to us, and they had a good midwife group. And what I liked about them too is I could meet with I scheduled my appointments with all of them at different times so that whichever one was on call, I would be comfortable with them and know them. And some of them I liked more than others, but I just had to ask, good questions. I let them know that I wanted an unmedicated birth, and they were pretty supportive of that. Most midwives are, but some aren't. And so that was important to me to find someone that was going to be like super on board with like my birth preferences and everything.
What was your birth plan?
So my birth plan was, I took the hypnobirthing course, and what hypnobirthing is.
Did you take it online or in person?
We did it via Zoom. So my mom is a doula and a hypnobirthing instructor.
Okay.
So lucky for me, right? So she took my husband and I through the course. And it sounds kind of like foo-foo at first if you don't really know what hypnobirthing is, but it's actually really cool. The whole idea is that you're in the headspace to just be really super connected to your body, to be positive, like to be connected with your baby. I mean, I believe that your baby can feel kind of your emotions when they're in the womb. And if you are aiming for an unmedicated birth, it's a really good route to take because, when you're in the thick of laboring, it can really help kind of bring you back to your center and not completely freak out. And it helps you kind of mentally prepare if your birth plan doesn't go how you were hoping it to go and you don't fall apart and be super disappointed, which is what happened with me, actually. I didn't have my unmedicated birth, but I was okay with it because I also was mentally prepared that it may go a different way and I would need to do what's the safest for, my baby. So.
Okay, so that's like the principle behind it. But then is it breathing?
Yeah, so it's a lot breathing, just different breathing techniques. There's a lot of meditations that you practice while you're pregnant so that when, you're actually in labor, you can go back into those. Like I had an affirmations track that was playing and I was in the tub. I labored a lot in the bathtub, and I would just listen to the track, and I didn't want anyone to talk to me. I just needed to visualize. I needed to get into the zone and just like think about what the affirmations were saying. And that just really helped me through that. So it's that. And then it's also just really educational about what actually happens to your body when you're in transition and your baby's coming down. It taught me about how the uterus actually works and like why you feel the things that you feel, and that there's not something wrong that's happening to you. Like it's not like you're being injured. It's your body's natural, way to get your baby down and out. So it was just really fascinating, and you learn about how to bond with your baby before they're born and after, and just all the good things. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was really fascinating.
And then what ended up happening at your birth that it didn't go according to plan?
Yeah. So I'm a little sad about it, but I also am just like, you know what? I learned a lot.
Plus you have a healthy baby.
And I have a healthy baby,
Yes.
which is the most important
The most
thing.
important, yes.
I think I went to the hospital too soon. I was really excited, and I think we just went, in hindsight, I would have labored at home a lot longer. But so we went and I labored there for quite a while. It was around hour 16 that I was convinced I was in transition. I'm like, this baby has got to be coming out now. Like, it was so intense. And they checked me and I was at a 2.5.
Low.
And I just bust into tears. I was like, you are kidding me. And I was coming off no sleep from the night before because my husband and I stayed up late watching movies. It was 4th of July the next day. And we went to bed for maybe an hour. And then at like 2 in the morning, my water broke. It was the first thing.
That's what happened to me with my first one. You woke up
really
like water breaking?
Well, I had to go to the bathroom and I stood up and that's when it broke. And I was like, I think my water just broke, but I wasn't sure. I was just kind of like, wait, what is happening? And then, yeah. And contractions started kind of right away. So then I was like, okay. So I was just coming into it off no sleep and then a long labor, hoping that, okay, he's coming. And then I was at a 2.5, but my water had been broken for a while. And
yeah, it kind of starts the clock actually.
And then they were like, his head is like really tilted in there and we can't get him under the pubic bone or whatever. So anyway, so I ended up not going unmedicated and they had to do get him out with forceps and his heart rate was dropping and, and it's okay because we have him now. But
do you feel like you're disappointed?
I was a little disappointed just because I was just so hopeful to have the birth that I had like envisioned in my head. And my sister has done 4 or 3 of her 4 kids unmedicated. And she's like, just the recovery is so much better. And it's just so empowering. And I just wanted to experience that. I mean, either way, it's incredibly empowering.
Right, for sure.
And I loved it. But yeah, I was a little bit sad just because also I was so tired. I think, ideally you want to be fresh in the morning and ready for the day. And then, oh, my water broke.
That never happens.
No.
But do you feel like you've worked through that? Have you gotten past the disappointment?
For sure.
And now you see it in a different light?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, now I just look back and just, I don't feel it's not like I'm carrying any, super heavy feelings about it. If anything, it just kind of makes me excited for the next time around. Just things I would do differently and ways I would just mentally prepare even better.
Yeah. I think it's a common theme. I think your first one, your body, first of all, doesn't know what.
Yeah,
it's the first time. Yeah. And then all the expectations that you carry into it. And then it's bound to be like disappointing in some way or somehow. I ended up having to have C-sections and I kind of knew that was going to be the case. Well, actually, I did know. Every doctor that's examined me is like, you have to have a C-section. I'm like, okay. But I still tried and then ended up having a C-section and feeling a little disappointed. But then with my son being like, okay, well, that's probably the outcome. So I'm not going to have any expectation the other way. And then it was fine, It is hard to balance that I have a plan and this is how I want it to go versus I'm not in control and it's going to go the way it's going to go and I have to be okay with it. Like it's hard to know when to push and when to pull, but like 16 hours, no sleep, you're at the end of your rope. Yeah. He's coming. I'm at a 2.
Yeah.
I can just imagine the disappointment.
Yeah.
So your mom's your doula. How did she balance being a mom versus being a doula versus your birth plan versus watching her daughter in pain?
Yeah. So something that she said, this is actually what kind of helped me heal of like, okay, it's okay.
Yeah.
Because she said there's a difference between you having an empowering, intense experience and you suffering.
Yeah.
And she's like, when I could tell like you were suffering and you didn't care about, like, I wasn't even thinking about my baby. Like, I was just in so much discomfort and so tired and I couldn't eat because I was on Petersen. And anyway, she was like, that's not the goal. Whatever your birth plan is, the goal should just be whatever is going to have you come away feeling like it was an empowering experience, the best that you can. So I wasn't going to just suffer through to say I did something a certain way if it was not going to be like a special memory. So once we got to that point, I felt pretty good about saying, okay, let's change the plan. Let's do something different. Let's do what we need to do.
Very wise.
And from that point on, I was able to take a nap. And by the time I woke up, they're like, you're complete. You're at a 10.
Right. Your body just needed that nap.
Yeah. Right. I just needed the nap. I needed to just lay on my side.
It's like everyone just needs a happy nappy. Let's just take a happy nappy. Okay. I love that. Okay. So then were you big in affirmations through hypnobirthing and your mom? And then you just seem to be like pretty positive person.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I've always kind of known that, your thoughts have so much to do with the way that you feel and ultimately your actions. And I have an older brother who's actually super into that stuff. He's like the self-help books and visualizing. And we took like a self-development course together, me and him one time. So it wasn't like super foreign to me, that kind of idea of affirmations. But yeah, I mean, that's a big part of the hypnobirthing course. And so it was kind of fun. They had like things you could read, like to your baby, or things your husband would read. And it was just kind of a fun, kept it light, kept it positive. I'm also a very fearful and anxious person. So it's easy for me to just kind of think about the worst case scenario. So it really was kind of crucial that I did those affirmations every day.
Okay. Walk me through some affirmations.
Yeah. So some of the ones that I liked the most would just be like, my body is doing exactly what it needs to do. My baby is healthy. My baby is loved. Like, I am strong. I can do this. Just things like that. Then there was affirmations about the actual labor, and it would be kind of walking yourself through like what your body's doing. So when it got to some really uncomfortable points, like when I was laboring in the tub, I would just like, this is normal. Like, I'm not being injured. This is normal. My body is working for me. Like, my body is showing up for me right now. It's not my body against me. It's here for us, me and my baby. And I'm in control, just things like that. There's lots of different little, you can kind of make it your own.
Have you carried that into your postpartum?
Not as much as I should have, honestly. I feel like postpartum, it's such a whirlwind.
Yeah, it's a lot of survival.
And you've got so many things going through your mind now that you have this human being to take care of, that, and I don't know, I think that's part of postpartum depression that can come on, is you can kind of like lose yourself a little bit. Like, okay, I need to take a minute to slow down, actually think about like how to just like regroup. So I've been working on that lately, but I think it was definitely hard in the beginning, and I just kind of let go of everything, and I'm like, I'm just in survival mode. And but yeah, I mean, that would be something that, next time would be something good to note. Like, okay, still keep some of those practices in place so that not everything changes at once and you just completely kind of freak out with all the change. Because I feel like that's kind of what happened to me. It was so overwhelming.
Are you type A?
I don't know. Is that one of those personality tests? I don't know. You'd have to ask my husband.
Do you feel like you can influence and impact a lot of outcomes in your life?
If I want to.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. There's a little type A in there. You're in good company. I'm very type A. Kit over here nodding her head, type A. I feel like for me, sometimes it's hard for me to let go of either stuff that's happened or stuff that's going on, or even stuff that I think I should be able to control or should be able to do better. How have you dealt with that? And I'm assuming a lot right now, but you're nodding your head. So I'm just going to go ahead and assume you know what I'm talking about.
I do. Well, I also have OCD, so I'm very familiar with.
Same.
Yeah. And like, if things don't go the way I hope them to.
But wait, do you have like situational OCD, or you have not personality, but compulsive?
I have compulsive OCD. So I've had it ever since I was a little girl.
Okay.
Yeah. Mostly just about like who I am as a person. Like, I want to be a really good person, and it's always latched onto that. And so, if I feel like I offended someone, or I don't know, I can just like really just spin about it in my head and have to know, I have to know what they're thinking.
Yes.
So that's been a challenge.
I feel that same way, actually.
Yeah.
And
it's so hard.
It got way more intense after I had kids. And
Really?
I don't know if it was a hormonal imbalance or if it was just like my heart was walking around outside my body or whatever that phrase is, where I felt more vulnerable. But I definitely, I've had it too my whole life. Yeah. Which led to anxiety and then sometimes depression. And
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah, it's hard. I mean, luckily for me, my husband is like my therapist.
Okay.
He's so good.
Shout out TJ.
Shout out to TJ, my awesome husband. He's so good at just talking me down and just really validating. I don't know if you're like that, but when I'm like feeling my anxious and my OCD thoughts, like I just need to be validated before I'm like okay to listen to advice.
Right. Like I don't listen. The reason we got in this situation is because I have a plethora of ways to solve this problem. That's not the issue. I do not need you to solve the problem.
Exactly.
I need you to tell me I'm not crazy right now.
Yes. And I just need a hug and like let me cry it out for a minute. And then I'll like be okay, I think. But
there's this trend on TikTok going around right now where guys will be like the baddest woman in the room, like the strongest woman in the room, the one who gets the most done needs to be babied the most when she gets home at night. And I'm like, it's actually true.
I feel like that's so true.
Okay, Kit's here too, and she's nodding her head. Like, I just need someone, I need a soft place to land.
Yes.
Yes. And I'll be all right. Okay, but then as a mom, how have you been kind to yourself? How have you given yourself grace?
Yeah. So I'm big on, okay, this is another thing for my brother. I guess shout out to my brother, but he has this thing that I have done for years. He calls them catalytic activities.
Okay, I'm so interested.
Yeah. So what he does when he's feeling either anxious or like overwhelmed or just needs like to switch it up a little bit for a minute, he has this list on his phone of catalytic activities, and they're things that he knows he enjoys. And he made the list when he was like in a good place. So I had a list like that, and it was like Marco Polo, my mom, or my sister, because I just like love doing that. I like do that all day long. I don't know if you Marco Polo.
I love a Marco Polo. I treat them like podcasts. And I'll just turn it on, get my hair done.
And they have to listen to the whole thing before they can chime in. It's awesome.
Yes, it's the best. No one's interrupting you.
Yeah. I love a long hot shower or a bubble bath. That is like my love language. Like when I can just put my baby to bed and I draw myself a bubble bath with a candle, like that puts me in a happy place.
Yeah.
So I have prioritized that. And it's so simple, but like I just know I can look forward to that. What are some of my other things? Like going to get my nails done. Like I just have like a list of things that aren't crazy, but I'll just make time for me throughout the week. Be like, okay, tonight I'm going to take a bubble bath. Tomorrow I'm going to go to lunch with a friend. Like I've just had to plan in those little, they don't take a ton of time, but things for me. And that's helped me look forward to my weeks instead of just feeling like I have nothing going on, but I'm home. And I love my baby, but sometimes you get a little bit stir crazy, just,
Right. It kind of just reframes your perspective of like who you are, what you're doing.
Yeah.
What your contribution is.
Exactly.
Because after the 10th poopy diaper, you're like, what am I doing with my
life?
like,
I need a hobby. I need something else. Yeah. So those have been huge for me.
And say the phrase again. What your brother calls them?
So I'm pretty sure he calls them catalytic activities.
Okay.
I don't know what catalytic means, but we should probably look
it up real quick. Okay, but I really love that. It is from the root word catalyst, and it's involves the action of a catalyst. So meaning like you're changing your frame of mind. So the things that you're doing, like he loves
something
these.
To pull you out.
Yeah, you're changing your frame of mind, probably your frame of reference. And I think that's important. Like it's wild when you become a mom. We were actually talking about this today at Freshly Picked because we're doing some work around our a book called The Story Brand. In that book, you figure out like, okay, anyway, if you love the story brand, you understand like your customer is a hero and they have an enemy that they're fighting. So what is the enemy that moms are fighting? And my answer is like, I think it comes down to expectations. Either that you've placed on yourself or that society has placed on you. And I think that's where a lot of, as a person with OCD, where I feel like ooh, if I can meet an expectation, I'm the happiest girl in the world. I love feedback. I love deadlines. Like, I love when people have expectations of me, like I can meet them. But then if I don't meet them, I really feel bad about myself. And I think when you become a new mom, there's 900,000 expectations now all of a sudden. And it's hard to grasp onto something. And it's hard to kind of sit in there feeling when you're a mom, I maybe get one thing right a day and I fail 1,000 other ways. And then I just get up the next day and I try to do 2 things right that day and then only fell 998 other ways, you know? And I think like really, I love that idea of like a catalytic activity because you're just like, okay, I am not in a good frame of mind right now. I'm going to put some action into something that I know I'm good at or I know I love or makes me happy. And then that is just going to change my frame of reference. It's going to change my attitude. It's going to allow me to see myself in a light and in a way that is not under expectations that I can't control.
Yeah, I love that.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, Lo, thank you for coming on.
Thank you.
This is amazing.